hope all is well. So today we're going to be looking at Mikko Reflex. So a quick disclaimer before we start. So Kai from mlsoundlab got in touch and asked if I was interested in checking out the Mikko Reflex plugin and software. And being a big fan of the Damon60 IR pack, which I use in my main preset with Droga, the band I play in, and then also the Green 90, this wasn't something that I was going to pass up. So there may be some bias already, but that's simply because I already use the Damon60 IRs in a lot of stuff that I do, heavier stuff particularly, and I use them in my main preset on my FM3 with my band Droga to play live and rehearse every week, you know, because they're good IRs. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that kind of translates within the plugin, and hope that, you know, it doesn't lead me down a rabbit hole that will just drive my OCD absolutely crazy. If you've used Mikko 2, this won't seem too weird to look at, but this is my first foray into using the software, and it's pretty straightforward, to be honest. You've got like the speaker section here where you can move your mics around, and then the best thing about this plugin, I think, is that you've got this EQ graph here, or spectrum analyzer. I always get the words wrong here, but essentially here, as you can see, when you're moving mics around, it has an immediate effect on the sort of EQ curve and the response of, well, the EQ that's basically your cab. So you can see what changes you're making to, say, the mic positions and things like that, which have a direct effect on the EQ. And add to that, you can turn this EQ on and off if you want that, and you can also make EQ adjustments and see the sort of effect they will have on your impulse response. And then after that, you can also export it if you want. So you can build your custom IR through this and then export it, clicking there, for a specific sample rate, bit depth, and also how many channels to export. And then a handy MPT, or minimum phase transform, so that, for example, if you've got multiple IRs that you're going to combine later on in a hardware unit, you can set them so they all align perfectly. The manual also handily describes what sort of sample rates and bit depths that you might need for the different devices that you might own. For me, for example, I use the Fractal FM3, so that would be 48,000 sample rate, 24 bit depth, and then it'd just be a mono channel to export. Now, some handy little shortcuts that you can use, or just quality of life things. If you double click anything, it will reset back to its default position. So if you make all sorts of crazy kind of changes and you kind of click back on each one, or double click, it will revert to its original position. You can, of course, just reload the preset that you've been working on. Should you make loads of different changes and you just want to start again, you can just reload that same preset. Now, these sort of shortcuts also extend to the different mics. So when you're moving them around, you can say, for example, solo the mic that is active, so by double clicking on that, or you can mute by just right clicking on the actual mic. And this can be quite handy when, for example, you've got multiple mics to set up, or you're unsure what that one mic is doing or how that sounds. You can double click it to get a quick solo of just that one mic and that position. And then to get rid of the mic completely, I can just drag it outside of like this speaker cone, and then it will delete said mic. Now you can load up to 9 different mics, but it's not just a mic per se, because for each mic that you add, you can also add to which speaker that mic positioning is. So although you've only got this one area which demonstrates where the speaker is, for example, if I add a second mic, I can say that this second mic is miking up a different speaker. So say a Cream 75, and then with a ribbon mic. So even though visually it's just the one speaker, the two mics and the positions are miking up 2 different speakers. So that's something to bear in mind if you want to make, say, multiple mic'd speakers or different speakers. You can blend them all together by just adding multiple different mics, and you can add up to 9 in total. And it kind of looks a bit crazy with all these mics on there. And if you want to clean them up, you can either reset to default by reloading the preset, I'll say default preset in this case that you're working on, or what you can do to get rid of certain mics is you can drag them to the outside of the speaker like this, and then they just simply disappear. Now, adding to this, you've got different options that you have for the actual mics themselves. So you can also tilt them, which will give a different sound and response to the different mics that you're using. And you can also play around with the distance from the actual speaker itself. Add to that some phase options and also panning options. So for example, you could have multiple mics on the same cab or the same speaker that you're miking up, and then pan them differently so you can get this really wide stereo sound, which can be very useful for, say, certain productions and things like that, or pan them all to center so they're all kind of blended together in a central, like, mono sort of IR that you might be using. So within the program, you get 18 different speakers, and on every single one you can place as many mics as you want, within reason of course, and given that you've only got 9 mic or speaker positions, and then blend to your heart's content, and then export the result to use in your hardware unit, or just use, as I am here, as a plugin within the DAW. Now this plugin is really dangerous for me, and I was telling Kai about this, I'm a big fan of the Green 90 IR pack and also the Damon60, where I use 2 57 mic IRs that I have hard panned left and right. And with this, basically I can load up, you know, the Damon60 speaker and then go nuts with different mic placements and try different things that might give me that, you know, 5% or 2% more tone to my liking. And that's, yeah, I can feel my OCD starting to twitch just at the thought. So we have different, I'd say, cabs that we can choose from that will affect the resonance of the speaker that we're miking up. And we'll see that we have a few options here. So we have between reflex cab, the 4x12s, the 2x12, and then a combo. And if I cycle through them, and you can do this by, say, if you click on this menu and then hit the up and down key, you can easily cycle between them. You'll see that the resonance kind of changes between them, and it's most obvious in the sort of mid-range and the lows, but there is some difference up here as well. But the biggest differences will probably be around this region. So we'll see with the reflex cab, it's maybe more balanced per se. And as we go up, you know, there'll be more lows and lower mids in the 4x12s. And then when we get to the combo, it's much less, for example. And this is something that you'll definitely hear when you're playing around. And these are things that you can set per mic. So as I said before, for every mic that you add, you can set which speaker you're miking up, which mic you're using, the level within the mix itself, and then also the distance, the tilt, phase stuff, you can pan it differently, and the resonance per mic that you're setting up. So you can get these really fun combinations of different speakers and different cabs and different mics in all sorts of different positions to get you the sound from like a one IR or the one speaker almost per se that you're after. So in terms of speakers, we have, I believe, 18 different speakers that we can choose from. I'll note that the free version of this piece of software, you'll get the Green 90, which has been one of my favorite IRs to use for sort of either clean, edge of breakup, and maybe sort of the Marshall kind of crunch vibe of stuff. So you can get this free in the free version of this plugin, which is really cool. And then when you buy the full version, you'll have access to all 18 of these speakers that you can mix and match how you please, and also put in all sorts of combinations of mics. And in terms of mics, we have 8 different mics, and it's a selection of a bunch of dynamic mics, 2 ribbon mics, and a condenser mic. So there are a lot of options here, and to some extent it can feel maybe a bit overwhelming, but the easiest way of looking at things is to find the kind of speaker vibe that you're after, be it, say, vintage 30s or maybe something else, and then try things out with, say, just a 57 mic on there to get an idea of the vibe of the speaker, and then build on that. So you might find that just the one speaker with 1 or 2 mics and further tweaking that a little bit gets you really close to that tone you're after. Or you might find that, you know, mixing that with a different speaker that complements the one that you know quite well, you can get some really interesting results and surprise yourself, basically. So, you know, it's basically about experimenting. You know, I'm not an audio engineer by any stretch of the imagination. So if you put me in a room and it's like, okay, well, let's mic this cab up, I'd probably have a good go at it with, say, one SM57. And the beauty about this program is, you know, you can't do anything wrong. You know, you're just trying things out and you can see the sort of results you get. And in the process, learn a bit more about, you know, miking up a real speaker. I'm not sure if I'll get to do that anytime soon, but through using something like this and messing around, I have a better idea of what sort of mic position I might like should I be in the position that I, you know, mic up a real cab. Now, the thing about this software that I really like is that it's essentially, you know, loads of different speakers or IRs that you might be used to packaged in this really cool interface where you can further tweak right down, you know, to the millimeter of the mic positions to get exactly the sort of tone you're after. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with, you know, IR packs and mixers and things like that you get. And I love to use those. But, you know, my OCD brain, when I look at this and then realize that some of my favorite IR packs, you know, the speakers that I really like to use, the Damon60 being one, for example, is in here. And then I can go nuts, basically, and further tweak and push, you know, push the boundaries of what I was after in terms of mics and setup and things like that, and really get down to the nitty gritty of like, you know, I like that IR, I like that version of the 57 IR that they have, but maybe there's something between, say, the 57B and the 57C Damon60 IR that I can tweak through this and get that extra 2 and 3% that, you know, you're tone chasing, that's the sort of thing. Those are sort of differences or gains per se that you're after, and that can make all the difference. So huge thanks to Kai and mlsoundlab again for sending this over for me to check out, and I hope you got something out of this. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Take care.